358 Yada Yahowah, Beyth, in the family. 9. Hineh, here I am. Meeting with God. Yahowah's script for Act 2 of their seventh and final meeting would include 3 props. Yitzhak would carry some wood, and Abraham would convey a knife and fire. Since this is a dress rehearsal for what would occur during the fulfillment of Pesach, Passover on Moriah, Moriah 40 Yobel, the year of God's Lamb, hence, understanding what they represent is vital to the story. In the order of their appearance, we have Etzi. It was written in the plural form, rendering trees, pieces of wood, timbers, or wooden planks, the most accurate English translations of the Hebrew. The context, however, limits our choices and imagination. These were placed upon Yitzhak's back by a man well over 100 years old and then carried up rather steep mountainous terrain from the valley below, thereby eliminating trees and timbers from our list, as well as the large funeral pyre commonly depicted in religious renderings. There was no mention of a walking path, much less a road, up the ridgeline. Neither Abraham nor Yitzhak was pulling a cart, and we were explicitly told that the 2 young assistants, and the donkeys remained below. Therefore, if wooden planks, they would have been relatively short, thin, and few in number. Moreover, Etzi cannot be branches because there are a plethora of Hebrew words for branches, stems, and sticks, any one of which Yahowah would have used to 359 describe them. Further, the area would have been brimming with the kind of natural kindling conducive to building a small campfire and cooking a meal. The words and reason, therefore, dictate that Yitzhak was carrying a few wooden planks up Moriah because he was playing the role of the Son of God who would serve as the Passover lamb. In this enactment, we might envision the 2 upright wooden planks used to create a doorframe along with a horizontal lintel beam above. Symbolically, they would comprise the doorway to life upon which the blood of the Pesach ale was placed as death passed over the homes of the children of Israel in Egypt. Etzi, written in Paleo-Hebrew, pictorially conveys, be observant and relax and see the sign of the hand. It begins with the ein, which is an eye. It tells us to be observant, to look around, check out the details, to be perceptive, and then view what we are seeing from the proper perspective. So, let's do that. Of particular interest, we also find a zard, drawn to show a person resting and reflecting on the world around them. It depicts the ideal position to get comfortable, prop ourselves up, and hold something to read, and so, we shall. We find a Ts in Yitzhak, the star of this performance and the first child of the covenant. Zion, the signs posted along the way, is the very thing we should be seeing placed before our very eyes. Further, we are in the heart of Erez, representing the promised land. And of critical importance, in that this was a test, Zadok affirms that we have found the correct answer, which is that vindication is a result of being right. These are the most important signs for us to behold on this occasion. And this brings us to the Yod, hand, of God at the conclusion of the plural form of Etzi. Representing the 361st letter in Yahowah's name, we realize that Yahowah is promising to offer a welcoming hand, to lift us up on this day, and provide everything we need to succeed. As an interesting aside, the verbal root of Etz is etzar, to shut. It reveals how an operable door serves to keep unwanted influences at bay, protecting the family inside. Moving on to the second of 3 props, we find that Mekeleth, knife, an implement for cutting and separating, is a compound of ma, serving as an interrogatory, and a kal, resulting in a desire to contemplate preparing something to eat, and then being nourished by it. In this light, rather than a device used to wound or slay, the Mekeleth is actually an accoutrement to the intended feast, one which separates the living from the dead. It is in Abraham's hand because he is playing the part of Yahowah throughout this drama. Lastly, the Esh, fire, is also being carried by Abraham. It represents Yahowah's presence as light and God's desire to enlighten us. It is also symbolic of divine judgment, something expunged by Passover. Daud likely carried the wooden beam upon which he would be attached, serving as the doorway to life during Pesach. He too would have had it on his back as he walked along the Golgotha escarpment of Moriah, and that is why Yitzhak is shown doing the same. And, Abraham, Abraham, Father who raises and lifts up those who stand up and reach up, Father of the abundantly enriched, merciful Father, or Father of multitudes who are confused and troublesome, obtained and grasped hold of, lakak, collected and took hold of, accepting, the wooden planks associated with, etzeha, the wooden pillars, supports, or beams, plural, elevating the experience, ha-olah, that which rises, from Allah, to ascend, go up, and rise, to be withdrawn, carried 361 away, and meet, and, placed them, sim, set, laying them, kal imperfect, upon, al, Yitzhak, laugh and play, his son, Ben-Hu. Then, he grasped hold of and accepted, laka, he selected, obtained, and received, Kal imperfect, in his hand, Var Yod Hu, with the fingers of his hand, the fire, Esh Ha Esh, that which exists as radiant energy to provide light to see and warmth to comfort in addition to cooking food to make it edible and nourishing, symbolic of enlightening and judging, and that which is associated with the knife, Wa Eth Ha Makeleth, the implement used for cutting and separating, from Ma and Akal. To contemplate preparing something to eat and then being nourished by it. The two of them walked together in Yer and in one accord, Waholak Shinem Hem Yador, and so both of them journeyed in unity with each other, reciprocating with one another, united and alike in love, from Yakid, begotten and beloved son, Kal imperfect. Beryth, Genesis, in the beginning 22-6. Unified in their approach and of one accord as they ascended Mount Moriah, they were symbolic of what Yahowah and his beloved son would accomplish in this same place 2,000 years hence in year 4000 year. It would be a millennial Yaubel, 33C on the Roman pagan calendar, as was this, 1968 BCE. Indeed, Abraham and Yitzhak were acting out their respective roles. They, like us, would benefit from Passover, making all of this an uplifting experience for them. Father and son would make the sacrifice to enable it. And perhaps that is why the Hebrew word for unity in this presentation of everyone being of one accord is Yador, with an emphasis on Yer. As we consider what follows, a word of advice, think less about what Abraham and Yitzhak are saying and 362 doing relative to one another, and more about why this somewhat stilted conversation is being presented to us in this way. Almost every word and image are symbolic of what would occur in this place 40 Yaubel hence. This story serves as a preview of the single most important event in human history. On Mount Moriah, in what would become Yerushalayim, Yahweh, Yisrael, circa 2000 year, 1968 BCE by Roman pagan church accounting, we are witnesses to a preview of the fulfillment of Pesach, Passover on the 14th day of Abib, Nisan in year 4000 year, a Thursday/Friday April 2nd/April 3rd, 33 CE, Julian calendar, and, Wah, Yitzhak, laugh and play, spoke, Amar, communicated, Kal imperfect, 2, Abraham, Father who raises and lifts up those who stand up and reach up, Father of the abundantly enriched, merciful Father, or Father of multitudes who are confused and troublesome, his Father, Abhu, stating, Amar, bringing to light and declaring, Kal imperfect, Father of mine, Ab-Eni, my Father. He responded, Wa Amar, he, Abraham, provided assurance, promising, Kal imperfect, here I am, Hineh Eni, look up at me and pay attention to the details in this discussion, presently, right now I am here, my son, Eni Ben. Then, why, he asked, Amar, he mentioned, inquired, and questioned, I see, Hineh, looking up right now and paying especially close attention, noticing all of the relevant details, I behold, the fire, Ha-Esh, the source of light and warmth, radiant energy and enlightenment, the means to properly prepare food and symbolic of judgment, and, Wah, the wooden planks, Ha-Etz, the timbers and beams of wood, but, Wah, where is, Ayah, serving as an interrogative in a relational circumstance, the lamb, Ha-Se, the sheep, masculine. Related to Sard, a brilliant 363 witness comprised of light providing direct knowledge about the situation and teaching regarding the subsequent event who serves as an advocate and spokesman on behalf of the accused, to elevate and enrich the experience, La Ola, to approach by rising, from Allah, to ascend and go up, to be withdrawn and be carried away. Beryth, Genesis, in the beginning 22-7. There are a surprising number of Hebrew words for lamb, each providing a nuance that is appropriate to the context, and each designed to enhance our understanding. In this case, at least based upon the most closely related words, Ha-Se, is exceptionally rich. Collectively they speak of a brilliant witness comprised of light providing direct knowledge about this specific situation while teaching us about the subsequent event destined to occur in this same place, serving as an advocate on behalf of the accused. Further, Yitzhak's question regarding the lamb, while seemingly subtle, affirms two profoundly important aspects of their adventure to Mount Moriah. For him to have recognized that they needed a lamb to roast on the fire to complete their uplifting experience on the mountain requires an understanding of the Torah. Abraham had obviously shared it with him, even at an early age. And even more revealing, they were intending to celebrate Passover, just as would the Son of God 40 Yaubel thereafter on this same mountain. As proof that Abraham and Yitzhak were operating out of an entirely different playbook, one composed by God and in universal conflict with the cradle of civilization circa 1968 BCE, the Sumerians were sacrificing humans, not lambs. 6 years ago, archaeologists at the University of Pennsylvania reached this conclusion after conducting CT scans on the skulls of over 2,000 victims buried in 16 golden tombs in a single royal cemetery in Sumer. 364 These researchers reported that human sacrifice was conducted on a remarkably large scale. The common characteristic among these ancient remains was that 2 1-inch diameter spikes had been driven through the heads of the men and 1 through the women while they were still alive. Their bodies were then baked, albeit not burned, and then doused with mercury so that they would not decompose. This treatment allowed them to be put on display during religious ceremonies. Abraham's countrymen sought to appease their gods through religious mass murder. Especially wanton during this time, Sumerian and Egyptian lords, priests, and kings had countless servants, concubines, musicians, handmaidens, grooms, guards and soldiers murdered, believing that the dead would continue to serve their masters in the afterlife. Worse, the Phoenicians and Carthaginians sacrificed infants to their gods. In one cemetery alone, urns containing the tiny bones of 20,000 ritualistically murdered children have been found. It has recently been discovered that the Greeks practiced human sacrifice as did the Romans through the 2nd century BCE. The Mongols, Druids, Chinese, Japanese, Mayans, Aztecs, Incas, Polynesians, and Africans prolifically, barbarically, and religiously sacrificed innocent lives on behalf of make-believe gods. So, the only reason that Yitzhak would have asked his father about a lamb is because he was aware of Yahowah's instructions regarding Passover. As we are now aware, there is sound justification for translating Olah as an elevating experience rather than a burnt offering. And yet the latter is how it is rendered in virtually every English Bible. I have chosen a different approach for many reasons. First among them is that basically every Hebrew noun is defined by its actionable root, and Olah, as we know, is based upon the verb Olah 365, to ascend and to go up, to be withdrawn and to be carried away. And as a reminder, Olah and Olah are written identically in the original Hebrew text. Second, let's look at the letters comprising the verb and noun. Pictorially, encourages us to observe the perspective and purpose of the shepherd if we want to stand with him. Therefore, Olah and Olah convey the result of being Torah observant. Life is better when we see Yahowah as our shepherd and ourselves as his sheep. We grow to appreciate what the Messiah did on our behalf on Pesach and Yahowah on Matzah, enabling us as the covenant children to Olah, ascend as a result of being withdrawn and then carried away by God. This is the ultimate in uplifting experiences. Third, since the meat of the Passover lamb is consumed by the celebrants after it has been cooked above the fire, and is thus not burned, there is absolutely nothing associated with Olah which would suggest a burnt offering or anything of value being offered in the fire. Burning the inedible portion of the lamb is no more a sacrifice than incinerating one's garbage. That is why we discovered that Olah has no etymological connection with burn, burnt, burning, fire, or offering. It means to elevate. Therefore, in the context of its use, Olah presents a visual and symbolic portrait of what God is offering to do for us, raising us up to Him. We, as His guests during the celebration of Pesach, are sacrificing nothing and gaining everything. We are being nourished, we grow and live as a result of consuming the lamb which we roast on the fire. It creates the kind of celebratory feast Yahowah intended for His family's enjoyment. We are not only warmed by the blaze, the fire's light is symbolic of what Yah has in store for us. As we witness the smoke rising up to the heavens, we can envision being withdrawn and carried away, 366 ascending to the home and presence of Yah. Olah speaks of his offer to immortalize, perfect, and adopt us during Pesach, Matzah, and Bikurim. And it is Daud's sacrifice, not ours, which makes this possible. We are the beneficiaries of his magnanimous offer. Speaking of words, I love the term Yahowah selected, Ra, to demonstrate that he would see an aspect of his son's prior life in the Passover lamb. Further, this next statement from Abraham suggests that this assessment is valid. Abraham, Abraham, Father who lifts up those who stand up and reach up, Father of the abundantly enriched, merciful Father, or Father of multitudes who are confused and troublesome, responded, Amar, promised, declaring, Kalim perfect, God, Elohim, will come into view and actually reveal the proper perspective to understand how. Ra, will literally show by consistently making visible, providing the proper perspective to understand how, Kalim perfect, to approach him by way of, Lahu, on his behalf and in accord with himself, concerning him and to move toward him. And in reference to the proper direction according to him, the lamb, Parseh, the sheep, masculine, related to Sard, a brilliant witness comprised of light providing direct knowledge about the situation and teaching regarding the subsequent event, who serves as an advocate and witness on behalf of the accused, to elevate and enrich the experience, La Olah, to approach by rising, from Allah to ascend and go up, to be withdrawn and carried away, my son, Eni Ben. Then, Wah, the two of them walked together in Yeh, in one accord with Yeh, Wah Holak Shinem Hem Yador, and so both journeyed in unity with each other, reciprocating with one another, united and alike in love, from Yakid, begotten and beloved son, Kalim perfect. Be'esith, Genesis, in the beginning 22-8. 367 They continued to excel at every aspect of Yahweh's test because they were following his instructions. Abraham and Yitzchak had learned to trust that God would take care of them, guiding, instructing, teaching, and directing them to every relevant answer. You will also notice the single most repeated word in covenant discussions, holok, walk, continues to permeate this story. Here it confirms that we will walk as one, together with and to God. Even the word describing this approach, Yada, includes Yah's name. I have shared this previously, but now it is especially relevant. Hebrew verbs are liberated in time. They can be, and often should be, presented in the past, present, and future tenses simultaneously. In this light, Ra means that Elohim has come into view in the past and will present himself in the future. He has revealed the proper perspective to understand and will continue to show the way to see what he is presenting throughout time, always providing the proper perspective. 40 Yahbel, or 2,000 years from this walk, on this day, on Passover in this very place, the Messiah would be fastened to an upright timber, providing a doorway to life. When, so, they came to, Boel, they arrived at and entered into, Kalim perfect, the place, Makam, the standing place, the site where one takes a stand, the home and office, the source of direction in life, which bestows the blessings of the relationship that, Asher, which provides the benefits of an upright, fortuitous, and elevated state, a joyful and happy attitude, and an encouraged and content mindset to those walking the correct way along the proper and specific path to a prosperous life. Stepping out with regard to this teaching and guidance to pursue life the right way which, the Almighty, Elohim, had told him about, Amal Ahu, had asked him to approach, Kal perfect, it was 368 there, Washem, and for the name, Abraham, Father who raises and lifts up those who stand up and reach up, Father of the abundantly enriched, merciful Father. Or Father of multitudes who are confused and troublesome, built, Banar, engaged to establish the family and restore the home, seeking to return to a prior state, to prosper and live abundantly, and to procreate a family, by constructing, Kalim perfect, an altar, Ethmai speech, a place to thank God and to show one's appreciation for the sacrifice of another, and, he arranged, Arak, he placed in a specific pattern designed for a particular purpose, preparing the arrangement for the purpose of comparison. Kalim perfect, the wooden planks, Etzim, the boards comprised of wood. Then, he connected these things together, Akkad, he fastened them together, with Yitzchak, in association with and on account of laughter, his son, Ben-Hu, positioning him accordingly, Simeth-Eth-Hu, he moved, located, placed, and set him up, appointing, preserving, and establishing him in association with while accompanying him, Kalim perfect, before, on, toward, against, or in front of, the altar, Harmai's beach. A place to thank God and to show one's appreciation for the sacrifice of another, in conjunction with, min, away from and because of, the upward and ascending nature, mal, to a higher position beyond the higher dimensions, associated with, la, the wooden planks, etzim, the beams and posts of wood. Beryth, Genesis, in the beginning 22-9. As we already recognize, Yitzchak could only have carried a small amount of wood to the summit of Har Moriah, Mount Moriah. Abraham was well over 100 years old, and their young assistants and donkeys remained in the valley below. To haul anything more on his back than the horizontal beam Dowd carried to his crucifixion would not have been feasible. So, this was not 369 a funeral pyre and he was not being burned at the stake. There may have been enough wood for a campfire and to roast a lamb, should one appear. The Almighty has told us about this place, revealing in his Torah that the benefits of the relationship are bestowed on those who walk the correct way along the proper path in recognition of what transpired on Mount Moriah. And it is here that the ultimate altar to the covenant will be built, the home for God's family. The final rendition will be constructed by none less than Father and Son. But first, Dowd would open the door to let us inside, something that he would explain throughout his Mizmor. Then he would redeem the children of Israel by carrying their guilt into Shaul. Free of human corruption and constraints, entry into God's home is finally assured. By connecting these things, we are properly positioned to ascend upward, just as was the case with Abraham and Yitzchak. All of this was arranged, staged if you will, to provide a dress rehearsal for Passover so that we might understand the connection between the Beryth-Covenant and Mikre, invitations to be called out, and thereby capitalize upon Yahweh's provisions and plan. Most translators will tell you that Abraham bound his son, thereby constraining him against his will and curtailing his ability to flee. But the primary definition of Akkad tells another story. It actually says that he connected these things together, thereby associating his son with the wooden pillars upon which the ultimate sacrifice would be affixed on our behalf. As we watch Abraham wield the knife, he is simply acting out his role based on what he has experienced, pressing the issue. Yahowah did not ask him to grasp it in the manner he did. Moreover, it would be the hand of God, 370 not Abraham's, that would accomplish all of this for us. So, next, Wah, Abraham, Abraham, Father who raises and lifts up those who stand up and reach up, Father of the abundantly enriched, merciful Father, or Father of multitudes who are confused and troublesome, stretched out, Shalak reached out, Kal imperfect, his hand, Eth Yod Hu, and grasped hold of, Lakek Eth, receiving, obtaining, and accepting, Kal imperfect, the knife, Ha Mekeleth, the implement for cutting and separating, and thus symbolic of circumcision, from Ma and Akal. To contemplate preparing something to eat and then being nourished by it, to move in the direction of, La, to approach the idea of, pressing the issue, Shaket, humbling himself by making a sacrifice, from Shakik, to bow down, diminishing oneself as an act of humility, with his son, Eth Ben Hu. Bersith, Genesis, in the beginning 22:10. The last thing God wanted was for Abraham to end the life of the boy whose birth he had miraculously facilitated. He had already promised that his eternal covenant would be established through Yitzhak. Therefore, Abraham recognized that God was going to intervene, just as he had on previous occasions. This was a test, nothing more, nothing less. Although with Abraham, based upon the plethora of poor decisions he had made in the past, the examination would require serious proof that his head was in the right place. The question being resolved, was whether or not Abraham and Yitzhak were willing to follow Yahowah's instructions as they were articulated to them. Did they trust God to do as he had promised and provide for them? In that words reflect Yahowah's presence in our world, it thought it would be wise to reconsider the root of Mekeleth and then Shaket. Mekeleth is, indeed, and 371 implement for cutting, but as a compound of Ma and Akal it asks us to contemplate preparing something to eat and then being nourished by it. And this is central to our understanding of Passover. Further, Shaket addresses Daud's role in pressing this issue by fulfilling it. He humbled himself to serve as the Pesach Ale and then fulfill Matzah. It would be the ultimate sacrifice. We have noted on several occasions that as a seven-dimensional being, the totality of God cannot enter a 3.5-dimensional world. Therefore, Yahowah interacts and communicates with his creation in a number of ways, one of which is to set apart and diminish an aspect of his nature. Another is through his malach, supernatural envoys, as he appears to be doing here. Also relevant in this regard is whether Yah can in fact see us from heaven. If possible, his vision of us would be filtered by the depth of each dimension below his own such that his view would be akin to one of those films where the camera pans out from someone's backyard getting smaller and smaller until the yard and people in it disappear in the vastness of the universe. Putting this into a more human scale, if viewing a frame of a two-dimensional picture shot in a three-dimensional realm at a great distance, say of two individuals on a mountaintop, the image of flat father and flat son would be so infinitely thin as to appear non-existent when viewed from a greater dimension. So, therefore, the bottom line is, Yah can see very little of us himself and as a result does not typically know us by direct observation. His primary awareness comes by way of his set-apart spirit and spiritual messengers. This, of course, emphasizes the importance of the malach, which is why Yahowah so often affirms that he is Yahowah of the Zaba, spiritual implements. 372 If Yahowah wants to engage with us physically or to reveal himself visually, he must set apart and diminish an aspect of his nature. If his influence is to be known and felt personally, Yahowah accomplishes this by way of the Ruach Kodesh, set-apart spirit. And when God indirectly wants to become aware of a situation, convey a message, or protect his interests, he deploys his malach, spiritual messengers and heavenly representatives. Recognizing this, we are told, then, Wah, a spiritual messenger, malach, a heavenly representative and divine implement, of Yahowah, Yahowah, an accurate transliteration of the name Yahowah, our Eloah, God is guided by his Torah, instructions regarding his higher, existence and our Shalom, reconciliation, called out, Kara, summoned and invited, met with and welcomed, proclaimed and designated by name, announcing, Kal imperfect, to him, El Hu, for his benefit, from, Min, out of, heaven, Shamaim, the spiritual realm and abode of God or just the sky above, and he said, Wah Ma, and he proclaimed and declared, Kal imperfect, Abraham, Abraham, Father who raises and lifts up those who stand up and reach up, Father of the abundantly enriched, merciful Father, or Father of multitudes who are confused and troublesome. Abraham, Abraham. So, Wah, he responded, Amar, he answered by stating, Kal imperfect, behold, here I am, Hineh, please look closely and pay attention to me standing upright, and to the details in this overall narrative and situation including the fact that I'm reaching up, because right now at the present time I am here and I have truly referenced, met, and acknowledged every condition regarding the one this is actually all about. Beryth, Genesis, in the beginning 22:11. 373 Yahowah presented Abraham and Yitzchak talking with one another using Amar, to speak, question, answer, respond, promise, and declare throughout this narrative. Their conversation was always in the Kal imperfect, suggesting a literal interpretation of something with unfolding consequences. Now that Yahowah is shown engaging, the verb changes to kara, to call out by name, to invite and summon, to meet and welcome. Beyond this unique perspective, kara is the basis of mikra, an invitation to be called out and meet with God. And it is the first of these, Pesach, Passover, that is being prophetically presented on this occasion. Therefore, Yahowah was calling out to Abraham by name and issuing him a personal invitation to attend the first of his festival feasts. In the previous statement, after proclaiming Abraham's name, not once, but twice, we find him responding with Hineh, behold, here I am, please look closely and pay attention to me standing upright and to the details in this overall narrative and situation, including the fact that I'm reaching up, because right now at the present time I am here and I have truly referenced, met, and acknowledged every condition regarding the one this is actually all about. By Hineh, paying especially close attention to the details and by looking up to the one presenting this situation and narrative, we come to realize that Abraham passed Yahowah's test because he referenced, met, and acknowledged every condition, and that this entire story has been presented regarding the one who would honor his promises. And while that is profound, the subtlety of Allah Salahu more human, do not do anything which infringes upon his free will is intriguing to say the least. Yitzchak is a child of the covenant, and in any loving relationship, 374 free will is inviolable. Moreover, Yahowah is committed to perfecting his children, so he did not want Abraham doing anything to defile his son. Then, he said, Amar, he, Malak, requested and announced, he directed and declared, Kal imperfect, do not stretch out, al-shalak, absolutely and certainly never dispatch, and in this case do not reach out or extend, your hand, yod otter, toward, in the direction of or against, the boy, Hana, the young man and adolescent child, and, do not approach him or do anything that infringes upon his free will, alasalahu morma. You should absolutely never act to physically defile him or engage to blemish him in any way, nor endeavor to benefit by doing something he does not actually choose or genuinely desire done to him, because of the ongoing and unfolding implications regarding him. Kal imperfect Yosef, literal interpretation of this relationship which had ongoing implications that will play out over time in an expression of third-person volition. Indeed, because truly and surely, and this is important, now and henceforth, otter, at this point in time, based upon the sequence of events and simultaneous narration as well as the logical implications of these things, I know, Yada, I recognize and respect, I acknowledge and understand, I have been made aware through observation of the fact and will make known, I have acquired the precise and pertinent information to become cognizant of, affirm, and agree, Kal perfect, that surely and emphatically, that actually and truthfully, genuinely for rational reasons, you profoundly respect and genuinely revere, you are revitalized and your thirst is quenched by the high regard you hold and honor you have ascribed to your God, Elohim Otter. Consequently, therefore it follows you have not withheld, lo chasak, you have not restrained, kept for yourself, concealed or spared, Kal perfect, your very 375 special and precious son, Eth ben Otter Eth Yakid Otter, accordingly your only uniquely exceptional child, from Yakad, means to unite and join together, becoming alike, from me, min any, away from me. Beryth, Genesis, in the beginning 22:12. It is at this moment that the covenant was ratified. It did not occur as a result of a negotiation or compromise. It was not an act of faith. It was respect. Abraham came to know, love, and respect Yahowah, which is why he chose to listen to him, accept his guidance, and then act upon his instructions, trusting God to honor his part of the arrangement. They had engaged in a mutually beneficial relationship. The man had done as he was asked, and God delivered on his promises. And therein is the message in all of this. Religious renderings of this passage are hell-bent on conveying as fear. But if Abraham feared Yahowah, he would have protected his beloved son from the terrorizing deity. Think about it, Abraham was over 100 years old. His life was nearly over. His son's life was just beginning. Moreover, when Yitzchak inquired about the apparent absence of a sacrificial lamb, had Abraham been acting out of fear, he would not have told his son that God was going to provide the lamb. There was no part of their walk up Mount Moriah and conversations along the way which suggested that they were terrified. What's more, during their initial meeting in the Promised Land, the very first words out of Yahowah's mouth were, "Do not be afraid." Along these lines, there is another insightful connection we should celebrate. This is Har Moriah, the mountain to revere the teaching of Yah. Speaking of the propensity of English Bibles to err, most state that Yitzchak was Abraham's only son, when Yachid correctly presents him as his very special and 376 precious son who was a unique and exceptional child. There are many children in this world, but the only ones who are uniquely exceptional and precious in Yahweh's eyes are those who have chosen to be part of his covenant family. This is what made Yitzchak special. Lastly, there is some potential confusion regarding the identity of the speaker, at least with regard to the concluding comment. Initially we are told that this was a malach, and thus a spiritual implement and heavenly messenger speaking on behalf of Yahowah. Consistent with this perspective, the malach says, "I know that you respect your God," addressing the Almighty in third person. But since Yitzchak was Yahowah's child via the covenant, and did not belong to a malach, messenger, the speaker is either God, himself, or a scribal error was made regarding the pronoun in the last statement. And yet, recognizing that the malach was speaking for God and was serving as an extension of the Almighty, it would not be unreasonable for him to have spoken in this way. And therefore, while we do not have a definitive answer, and while this portion of the narrative is not extant in the Dead Sea Scrolls, we should be made aware of the implications inherent in these statements. And upon further consideration, there is another possibility, one hinted at previously. Since we are about to be introduced to the sacrificial lamb representing Daud as the Zarahua, the malach, spiritual messenger is speaking for Yahowah about his son. Abraham and Yitzchak had done as Yahowah had asked. They had walked away from their country to the place Yahowah had directed them. They had walked to God and were declared acceptable in the process. More than anything, they had come to trust and rely upon Yahowah. And with every admission and affirmation, they were becoming the living embodiment of what it means to 377 observe the instructive conditions of the relationship. Then with the knife, the means to separation, Abraham was symbolically demonstrating his willingness to cut himself into the covenant by circumcising his son. While we do not need all the theatrics, this is how we become part of Yah's story. It came to exist following these conversations that Almighty God attempted to ascertain the understanding and examine the appropriateness of the responses by testing Abraham. He wanted proof of his knowledge and comprehension, especially considering the consequences. He called out to him, "Abraham." Then he said, as was his custom, "Look up and pay attention to me. Behold, here I am. Be especially observant because I am pointing something out to you that is critically important and requires your immediate and undivided attention." Versith, Genesis 22:1. Next, he said, "Please choose of your own accord to grasp hold of the hand of your son who is in accord with you, your unique and special child, whom, for the benefit of the relationship, you love, Yitzchak. Then of your own volition walk to approach the land of Moriah, respect Yah and choose to ascend with him there through this uplifting opportunity upon one of the mountains which, to show the way toward life, I will explain to you." Versith, Genesis 22:2. Therefore, Abraham got up early in the morning ready for action and eager to gain information at first light. He saddled his donkey and he selected and brought along 2 of his young men with him, in addition to Yitzchak, his son. Also, he cut the wood into several planks to elevate the experience. 378 Then he stood up to confirm and fulfill the mission. He walked to the place serving as the source of directions and site of the home which, for the benefit of the relationship, the Almighty had told him about. Versith, Genesis 22:3. On the third day, Abraham raised his eyes, elevating his perspective, increasing his understanding, and he saw the place which provides directions to the home and source of life from afar. Versith, Genesis 22:4. So Abraham said to his young men, "You should remain here with the donkey, and the boy and I will walk this way toward eternity, and announce our intentions regarding the continual restoration and preservation of life. Then we will choose of our own volition to return to you, to change and restore you." Versith, Genesis 22:5. Abraham grasped hold of the wooden planks associated with the uplifting experience and placed them upon Yitzchak, his son. He grasped hold of and accepted in his hand the fire and the knife. Then the 2 of them walked together in one accord. Versith, Genesis 22:6. And Yitzchak said to Abraham, his father, asking, "Father of mine?" So he responded, "Here I am, my son." Then he said, "I see the fire and the pieces of wood, but where is the lamb to enrich and elevate the experience?" Versith, Genesis 22:7. Abraham responded, "God will reveal the proper perspective to understand how to approach him by way of the lamb. He will offer the knowledge we require regarding the subsequent event which serves as a witness, my son." 379 Then the 2 of them walked together in one accord, united in Yah and alike in love. Versith, Genesis 22:8. When they came to the place where one takes a stand, serving as the home of the source of life which bestows the blessings of the relationship that the Almighty had told him about, there Abraham built an altar, and he arranged the wooden planks. Then he connected these things together with Yitzhak, his son, positioning him accordingly before the altar in conjunction with the upward and ascending nature associated with the wooden planks. Beryth, Genesis 22:9. Next, Abraham stretched out his hand and grasped hold of the knife, symbolic of circumcision, moving in the direction of pressing this issue with his son. Beryth, Genesis 22:10. At this point, a spiritual messenger of Yahowah called out to him from heaven, and he said, "Abraham, Abraham." He responded, "Behold, here I am standing upright and reaching up, because I have acknowledged every condition regarding the one this is actually all about." Beryth, Genesis 22:11. So, he said and directed, "Do not stretch out your hand toward the boy and do not do anything that infringes upon his free will. Indeed, now and henceforth, I know truthfully for rational reasons, you profoundly respect and genuinely revere your God. Consequently, you have not withheld 380 your very special and precious son from me." Beryth, Genesis 22:12. Since the heavenly chorus upholding the lyrics of the covenant has put down their instruments upon reaching this crescendo, it's time we turn our attention to Act 3 of this amazing drama. As the players return to their places, God defines the purpose of Hineh Nasa and Yahowah. He lifted up his eyes, raising his perspective, becoming observant, resulting in understanding. It is by Hineh, paying attention while standing upright and looking up, noticing all of the details in this narrative and circumstance that we come to comprehend what God is offering and expecting in return. We would all benefit by Hineh. Then, Wah, Abraham, Abraham, Father who raises and lifts up those who stand up and reach up, Father of the abundantly enriched, merciful Father, or Father of multitude who are confused and troublesome, lifted up, Nasa, he raised, Kalim perfect, his eyes, Ethine hue, his perspective accordingly, and looked, Wah, then he became observant, seeing and inspecting, perceiving and understanding, discovering as he considered what was being revealed, Kalim perfect. And then, Wah, acknowledging the situation regarding the one this was actually about, he observed, Hineh, closely examining and paying attention while standing upright and looking up. He noticed all of the details in this overall narrative and in this circumstance, including the fact that right now at the present time, he beheld a lamb, Ale, a perfect male lamb, the leader of the flock, the framework of the doorway, its doorposts and 381 jam, and the upright pillar to support the home. The source of empowerment, vigor, and health, the noble and mighty one. After this, Achar, following these things, subsequently in reference to another time, was caught, Achaz, was seized and held, was fastened to and attached, actually embracing for the purpose of providing an inheritance, Nephil perfect. For a limited time the ram carries out and endures the effect of the verb, being seized, held, fastened, and attached. To support this means to provide a comprehensive inheritance, in, within, by, and among, the intertwined thicket, sabak, entwined, entangled, twisted, and interwoven circuitous and burdensome thorn bushes, akin to sabib, circular, sabab, to turn things around, and sable, by bearing the burdens of others, by, his horns, hear and hue, his brilliant rays of light from a supernatural source, his glowing and shining appearance as a result of emitting and radiating light. Also his trumpet comprised of a ram's horn used, to signal an important message. And, Wah, Abraham, Abraham, Father who raises and lifts up those who stand up and reach up, Father of the abundantly enriched, merciful Father, or Father of multitudes who are confused and troublesome, walked over, Holok, went over, Kalim perfect, and accepted, Lakak, grasped hold of, obtained, and received, Kalim perfect, the lamb, Ha-Ale, the perfect male lamb, the leader of the flock, the framework of the doorway, its doorposts and jam, and the upright pillar to support the home, the source of empowerment, vigor, and health, the noble and mighty one. He offered him up, elevating and enriching the uplifting experience, while Yahowah, he ascended, going up to lift him up as an acceptable solution for an uplifting opportunity. Hyphal imperfect, the actions of the subject, Abraham, caused the object which is the ram, to participate in the uplifting experience which would have 382 ongoing implications throughout time, on behalf of, Takath. In place and instead of during an orderly arrangement with one event following after another as an exchange on behalf of the relationship and for the sake of, his son, Ben-Hu. Beryth, Genesis, in the beginning 22:13. Serving as a metaphor for God, himself, we find Abraham Nasa, lifting up, bearing, and carrying away. While this perspective was ascribed to his eyes in this context, the fuller implications of Nasa depict the benefits of the covenant. Our Heavenly Father is offering to reach down and lift us up, bearing us in his capable hands, so that he can carry us away from the world of men to his home. Ra is our responsibility. We are called to be observant. We are witnessing Yahowah's story in his words, such that we gain both perspective and understanding. Following Hineh, pay attention, there are 4 exceptionally important words. The first is Ale, representing the perfect male lamb who is the leader of the flock serving as the framework of the doorway. This is, of course, Dowd as the Passover lamb. Moreover, on Pesach, he is also Ale, the framework of the doorway, including its doorposts and jamb, thereby representing the doorway to life. Additionally, the Messiah is among the Ale, upright pillars supporting the home of Yahowah. As a result, he is part and parcel of our Ale, empowerment, vigor, and health. In the original alphabet in which the Torah was written, we find Ale scribed as. On this occasion, this also makes him the hand of the Almighty and a lamb who is shepherded as part of our Father's flock. Achar's primary meaning relates to time, addressing something which will occur later, yet in conjunction with 383 the events which are unfolding. Achar is a relative term conveying a linkage between that which is being observed and that which will occur in the same place but in another time. Therefore, Achar was used to reveal that what we are witnessing predicts a future fulfillment, dress rehearsal and enactment, of what would occur in the same way, in this same place, but in a later time. Passover would be observed here on 2 occasions. Our king, because he was devoted to serving as the Pesach Ale, allowed himself to be Achaz, seized and caught by the Romans. The evil empire would accuse him of treason, whip him mercilessly, and then nail the Son of God to an upright pole, crucifying him. And yet he knew that his purpose was to provide life to the covenant's children. Many of these special insights were brought to our attention courtesy of the nephil stem and perfect conjugation when applied to Achaz, whereby for a limited time the ram carried out and endured the effect of the verb, being seized, held, fastened, and attached to support. This means to provide a comprehensive inheritance. It is amazing what we can learn when only we try. Additionally, Achaz has other profound meanings. According to Melachim, I Kings 6:10, it is the base or foundation of the cedar timbers used to support the temple. In Dabri Ha-Yamim, 2 Chronicles 9:18, it is the footstool which was attached to the throne. In Shafot, Judges 1:6, Ahaz is used to describe the pursuit and capture of Adoni-Bezek before his thumbs and toes were cut off. It is often used to convey being seized by pain. As such, it is especially descriptive of the Messiah and his fulfillment of Pesach. Achaz? Only derivative is a chooser, the Hebrew word for property. That is significant because we inherit Yahowah's property as a result of his son's sacrifice. Every detail of this account is prophetic. 384 The Sabak, intertwined thorny thicket twisted into a circle became the crown of thorns that was placed upon the king of Israel's head by the Romans on Passover in the year 4000 year. But there is more to it than this because Sabak is related to Sabib, circular, depicting the crown placed mockingly upon him, and it is indicative of the circular reasoning that caused the government of Rome to taunt the lamb in this way. Nonetheless, he was there to sabab, turn things around so that man might turn away from religion and politics, from patriotism and militarism, and back to God. In this regard, the root of Sabak, sable, reveals that he intended to bear our burdens. The sable, bearing burdens root of Sabak, thorny thickets intertwined to form a circle is used twice in Yeshaya, Isaiah 53 1-12. However, with an eye to the importance of this portion of the narrative, we'll table our consideration of that prophecy so that we do not disrupt the flow of the story. Moving on to Kieran, it is symbolic of status and might, a symbol of strength and power, a metaphor for king and kingdom. It is a trumpet for signaling from the summit of a mountain. Kieran can mean to exalt and lift up, to dignify and empower. A Kieran was often used as a receptacle for oil, and thus served as the tabernacle for the Spirit. But most importantly, Kieran conveys rays of brilliant light. Kieran is not only based upon the root, Karen, these terms are indistinguishable in the text. Karen means to shine, to send out rays of light. Yahowah is light. As a result, Kieran was used to denote the rays of radiant light which were streaming from Moses' face after he met Yahowah. 385 Further, a Kieran, ram's horn, is symbolic of Towrah, when the shofar trumpet is blown to signal an important message from God. Putting it all together, the ram Abraham saw as brilliant rays of light was a vision of the Pesach Ale, signaling mankind from the summit of Moriah. After all, upon his return, Dowd will be as brilliant as the sun. Considering the profound and riveting nature of this expression of Passover, if you are concerned that I may be pushing the envelope, reading too much into words like Ale and Kieran, and ultimately finding predictions regarding Passover's fulfillment which really aren't there, look them up yourself. Since skepticism is often the first step toward understanding and to debunking misunderstandings, even to trust, I strongly encourage you to verify the evidence. There are a score of Hebrew lexicons and dictionaries online through which you can examine these words and consider their roots. I am convinced that the reason these concepts and resulting symbolism speak so profusely is that Yahweh invented the language of Hebrew to serve his interests. He created the universe and life, and knows how everything serves a common purpose. Able to maneuver in time, when it serves our interests and his, he even knows the future before it happens. His metaphors, unlike ours, can walk on all fours. He is God, after all. And that is the point. So yes, it is true. The Hebrew word, el, ram, means a perfect sacrificial male lamb, and it is also the word for doorway, lintel, upright pillar. We now know that we were right about the etzi, planks of wood. Those familiar with the Exodus story know that lamb's blood was sprinkled on the lintels of the doorways of Israeli slaves in Egypt so that their firstborn sons might live and be free. During the most important Passover in human history, the blood of the sacrificial lamb 386 was placed on the upright pillar upon which he was hung. In the process, God opened a doorway to heaven. Are you making the connection? This would be the most ola, uplifting opportunity, and elevating experience in recorded history. In this way, we would ascend, being lifted up by God. He would enable a most acceptable solution to enrich and enliven his children. Vocalized in different ways, the Hebrew consonant roots of Allah and Ola mean, to go up and to ascend a stairway to heaven. And that brings us to Lakak. Abraham took the lamb by the hand, received him and accepted him as we must do if we want to ascend to Yahweh. Takath, on behalf of, tells us something profound. The Son of God, was substituted on our behalf. We were redeemed because a ransom was paid in exchange for our lives. But Takath has additional meanings worth considering. They are, beneath, below, on account of, by way of allegiance to, and because of. In this regard, it was what may have been below the Pesach ale which is intriguing. I suspect that the mercy seat of the Ark of the Covenant was located beneath Mount Moriah, directly below the place Daud was affixed to the upright pole. When the ground opened in the earthquake following the death of his body, the blood of the Passover lamb may well have trickled through the opening and may have been sprinkled on the mercy seat of the Ark of the Covenant. It would serve as a foreshadowing of what Daud will do upon his return on Yom Kippurim. This possibility noted, I understand that the blood of the Passover lamb was placed on the doorways of Israelite homes during the celebration of Pesach which liberated the chosen people. At the time, there was no Ark of the Covenant or resulting mercy seat. The Ark was 387 constructed to hold the tablets of stone after they were presented by Moses in accordance with Yahweh's instructions. Also, it was a bull or goat's blood that Aaron was asked to sprinkle on the mercy seat during Yom Kippurim, the Day of Reconciliations. That notwithstanding, Passover is the doorway to reconciliations. And blood is the symbol of life. And just perhaps, the west side of the mercy seat was reserved for this occasion. If so, I find the imagery appealing. If not, then it has been an interesting discussion. The most important event in our history was being played out before our very eyes. Therefore, once again, we find a proclamation affirming that this was a dress rehearsal for the first Mikra, invitation to be called out and meet with God of Passover. So, Abraham, Father who raises and lifts up those who stand up and reach up, Father of the abundantly enriched, merciful Father, or Father of multitudes who are confused and troublesome, designated and proclaimed, calling out, Kara, announcing the appointment of the welcoming encounter associated with the specified meeting to which he had been invited and summoned, creating this proclamation to be read and recited, Kalim perfect, the name, Shem, of his place, Ha-Makam Ha-Hu, of the site of the home and office and source of direction for life, God, Elohim, the Almighty. The Qumran scroll 4:Exod differs from the Masoretic and Septuagint with Elohim versus Yahweh, reveals, Ra, he is seen, he is experienced, he is present and encountered, providing perspective and understanding for the observant who pay attention to and consider him, Kalim perfect. Showing the way to the benefits of the relationship, Asher, providing an upright, fortuitous, and elevated state, a joyful and happy attitude, and an encouraged and content mindset to those walking the correct way along the 388 proper and specific path to a prosperous life, stepping out with regard to this teaching and guidance to pursue life the right way. He spoke, Amar, he promised and declared, providing answers, Nephil imperfect, this day, Ha-Yom, upon, Ba, the mountain, Ha, to observe and understand, Ra. To see, look upon, view, and witness, experiencing and encountering, then considering the presence which provides perspective and comprehension regarding, Nephil imperfect, Yahowah, an accurate transliteration of the name Yahowah, our Eloah, God as guided by his Torah, instructions regarding his higher existence and our Shalom, reconciliation. Beryth, Genesis, in the beginning 22:14. All was forgiven. Abraham had come home. It had been a long road, but he had finally reached the place Yahowah had always wanted to reveal to him. Most English Bibles are wont to render Ra, which means to see, to look, to view, to perceive, and to observe using the perception of sight to reveal, offer perspective, and understand as provide or provides in Beryth 22:14. And while he provided us with the perception of sight, the verb focuses exclusively on the result, the ability to see, and thus to observe, perceive, and understand based upon witnessing the proper perspective. Therefore, in this context where he was not Ra, seen, we are left with three equally viable options regarding this optical verb. First, we can return to where we were a moment ago and view both the voice and the image of the Ram as the Messiah as the Passover lamb, and thus as fulfilling Yahowah's intent. His presence was observed, and his purpose was understood by Abraham. Second, we can view this entire encounter, the actions and the conversations of the participants, as well as the 389 subsequent test, for what it is, Elohim Ra, God revealing himself for all to see what he and his son are offering and to observe how they work together to honor this promise to uphold and sustain life. Here on Mount Moriah this time in year 2000 1968 BC pagan calendar, God, Almighty, provided us with a word's eye view of his son's then future, now past, fulfillment of the Mikra of Pesach in year 4000 33 CE Roman pagan calendar. He provided the observant individual the opportunity to realize the proper place and perspective to view the upholding of the covenant. Moriah is thus the place God reveals. The third approach to Ra is akin to the last. If you want to see God, use your Ra, perception of sight to observe him, by reading his word, especially his Torah. Based upon what I have seen over the course of the past 2 decades as I've observed his testimony, I'm convinced that we are afforded a better view of him than were the Israelites whom Yahowah accompanied in the desert over the 40 years of the Exodus. Said another way, the insights, clarity, and perspective provided by Yahowah's witnesses facilitate a vastly superior perspective on his nature, character, purpose, and plan than could ever be achieved by viewing a corporeal manifestation of God. The latter visibly proves his existence while the former explains the reason he exists. This next statement seems to support the line of reasoning we have been pursuing, that the spiritual implement, the heavenly representative, and the divine messenger who is addressing Abraham could be representing the Zarewah as the Pesach Ale. And rather than calling out to him, from the seventh dimension, something Abraham could not see, an aspect of his nature was present in the sky, hovering over the site upon which 390 his son would fulfill the promise of Passover in 40 Yabel. This perspective not only resolves the transition from your God to me in Beryth 22:12, it explains why Abraham called this place, Elohim Ra, God is seen. Further, it is the sole justification for the speaker making a pledge on his own recognizance. This theory is becoming ever more credible. The spiritual messenger, divine implement, and heavenly representative, Wa Malach, so the supernatural envoy and voice, of Yahowah, Yahowah, the proper pronunciation of the name of Yahowah, our Eloah, God as directed in his Torah, teaching regarding his higher existence and our Shalom, restoration, called out, Kara, summoned and invited, met with and welcomed, proclaimed and designated by name, announcing, Kelim perfect, 2, L, for the benefit of, Abraham, Abraham. Father who raises and lifts up those who stand up and reach up, Father of the abundantly enriched, merciful Father, or Father of multitudes who are confused and troublesome, a second time, Sheni, from the heavenly realm above the sky, Min Ha-Shamaim, from the spiritual realm, abode of God, or heaven. Beryth, Genesis, in the beginning 22:15. And, Wah, he said, Amar, he mentioned, stated, and affirmed, Kalim perfect, with me, Bar Eni, with regard to me, through me, and because my nature, I can fulfill my promise because I have sworn an oath, Shaba, I have made a solemn statement which I will uphold, and I am now affirming the trustworthy nature of my vow based upon 7, Nephil perfect. At a certain point in time the speaker will completely carry out the oath he has made and subsequently will endure and receive in its entirety all of the implications associated with his promise, prophetically announces, Naam, reveals and declares as the divine authority regarding the future, from Naam, to 391 speak prophetically regarding the future, Yahowah, Yahowah, the proper pronunciation of Yahowah based upon his Torah, teaching regarding his higher existence. Indeed, Ky Yan, for the express reason that truly, sincerely, deliberately, and actually, for the benefit of the relationship, Asher, showing the way to the benefits of an upright and elevated state with a joyful attitude, and thereby encouraged those walking the correct way along the proper and specific path to a prosperous life to step up and out in response to this teaching and guidance about pursuing life the right way. You have acted and engaged, Asar. You have exerted the energy and have endeavored to contribute, working and performing, Kal perfect, in accordance with the word, Eth consistent with these specific statements, this account and narrative which has been recorded and communicated. And therefore, you have not withheld, lo chasak, restrained or spared, holding back, Kal perfect, your son, Eth ben Otter, your unique, special, and beloved child, Eth Yaki Otter. Beryth, Genesis, in the beginning 22:16. The benefits of the covenant, eternal life, perfection, adoption into God's family, and enlightenment providing enrichment and empowerment, are made available to those who Asar Eth Debar, engage in a manner consistent with the word of Yahowah. It is what Abraham did to receive these benefits. It is the same for each one of us. And since Yahowah is dependable, since he is reliable and trustworthy, and since he is consistent, we can avail ourselves of the covenant's benefits in exactly the same way. That is the only reason this story was told for our benefit. It is why the Torah exists. 392 Yahowah is offering to become our Father, to get down on his knees to lift us up. He wants to increase every aspect of our nature to such an extraordinary degree that we are transformed from flawed and inferior physical constructs, stuck in time and subject to decay, to seven-dimensional beings comprised of light who are empowered, enlightened, enriched, and then liberated from every limitation or constraint. As is the case with the light emanating from the stars, so shall we be. Therefore, verily this reliably and dependably follows, so as a result and consequence, I will kneel down in love to lift you up, enriching and blessing you, Barak Otter, I will invoke divine favor upon you and will commend you, I vow to greet you in the most beneficial way and enjoy my meetings with you, I will adore you, causing you to prosper, and I will speak of your extraordinary contribution to reconciliation, Peel infinitive absolute Peel imperfect. Abraham is the beneficiary of the intensity of Yahowah's blessing and is empowered by it on an ongoing basis throughout time. And, I will to the greatest degree possible, magnify and multiply, abundantly increasing the importance and magnitude, Rabah, I will rear and help grow, and to an exceedingly great degree, I will empower, enrich, enlarge, and enhance, hyphal infinitive absolute hyphal imperfect, Yahowah is committing to continually facilitating Abraham's participation, of your offspring, Eth Zerah, your descendants, similar to, consistent with and comparable to, the light of the stars, Kab. The luminous heavenly powers in very high places within, of the spiritual realm, Harshamim, of the abode of God, but also, like, similar to and consistent with, the coarse sand, Chaul, the enormity of the sorrow and writhing agony associated with circular reasoning, and whirling swords which inflict torturous suffering, which, Asher, is upon, on account of, the 393 lips, Sapphire, the mouth, words, speech, and language but also the edge, boundary, bank, and shoreline, from Sapphire, those who are swept and snatched away, caught up and destroyed, and Sapphire, those who are wind-swept and laid bare, of the sea, Yam, Mediterranean Sea, Greeks, Romans and Carthaginians, Dead Sea, Sodom, Gomorrah, and Jordan, or Red Sea, Egypt and Arabia, serving as a metaphor for Gentiles and foreign foes attacking and eroding the borders of the land. In addition, your offspring, Zerah, seed and descendants, shall inherit, Yarash, accept and destroy, even impoverish, the result of the calculus and reasoning, the monetary system and cities, of his adversaries, Oyeb, his foes, his enemies, and those in hostile opposition to him. Beryth, Genesis, in the beginning 22:17. Yahowah is offering to immortalize, perfect, adopt, empower, and enrich his covenant children. Unfortunately, far too many of the physical descendants of Abraham have chosen to be religious, and thus remain as coarse as sand. The rhetoric flowing from their lips, replete with man's propensity for circular reasoning, will be the impetus for swirling swords and torturous suffering. And none will be more prone to coarseness, to whirling weapons, to inflicting agony, than the people of the sea, Greeks and Romans, due to the European imposition of Roman Catholicism. In this regard, the descendants of Abraham, the likes of Paul, Akiba, and Muhammad, accepted the impoverished thinking of man, that of Socrates and Aristotle, of Alexander and Hadrian, and of their gods, Dionysus and Mithras. But others, the likes of Moses and Daud, opposed the rationale of Israel's foes, nullifying their religious and political calculus. And while that is surely the gist of Yah's message, it is interesting to note the 394 influence of Yahweh on the world's monetary systems and population centers in harmony with this prediction. Before we consider Yahweh's concluding statement regarding his covenant, remember that Hebrew stems exist to establish a relationship between the subject and object of a verb relative to its action. And while there is no direct English equivalent, a translation is substantially abridged when the relational voice of these stems is ignored. That deficiency can run the gamut from slightly inadequate to missing the point entirely. Such is the case with Yahweh's next statement. The Kal stem, which is the most common, is the least nuanced. It depicts a straightforward relationship within a context that can be interpreted literally. It speaks of that which is actual and genuine. The hyphal stem is used when the subject involves the object in the process. The subject causes the object to become an understudy, therefore experiencing the same result. With the Peel stem, the object is put into action by the subject. In a way, the object is being directed. The Nephil stem establishes a telling scenario. It reveals cause and consequence. The subject both carries out and receives the implications of the verb's action. For example, the proponents of religion deceive and are deceived. To my thinking, the most revealing of all Hebrew stems is the hitpail. As the reflexive counterpart of the Peel stem, with the hitpail the subject of the verb acts upon and with respect to itself. The subject engages on their own accord, without anyone influencing their actions. He or she is shown engaging in a way that is wholly independent of any societal influence, especially the prevailing and compelling nature of religion, politics, patriotism, militarism, and societal customs. In the case of the hitpail, 395, the subject is neither assisted by any other individual nor human institution. With this in mind, Yahweh's concluding statement regarding the covenant is brought to us by the hitpail stem. And so long as they act independently and are not swayed by societal influences, people of every ethnicity on the earth will be blessed, wa barak shel gaon ha-eres, therefore individuals of every nation on earth who act on their own initiative, unaffected by the indoctrination of religion, politics, or patriotism, or without regard for peer pressure or any external influence, will be lifted up. The hitpail stem and perfect conjugation make it clear that the subject is not being acted upon or prejudiced by any prevailing societal influence, and that at least for a period of time these individuals act without reservation on their own recognizance, thereby being lifted up based upon their own decision regarding the blessing which results in them being favored, by way of your descendants, bar zeraota, through your seed and offspring. This reward is a consequence and is merited because, akeb, unto the end of time, this beneficial result of trusting the evidence which has been made conspicuously visible along the path whereby one embeds their heels to walk upright and unwavering as would Jacob, is being given for the express reason, to show the way to the benefits of the relationship, Asher. To encourage walking the correct and narrow path along the proper route to get the greatest enjoyment out of life. In response to this guidance, you actually listened to my voice, Shama bar Kal Eni, you heard me speaking to you, Kal Perfect. Beryth, Genesis, in the beginning 22:18. Let us never lose sight of the realization that most of Yahweh's prophets were Yahweh, Jews, and all were 396 Israelites, Israelis. It is, therefore, through Abraham's and Yitzhak's descendants that we are shown the proper way to receive the benefits of the relationship. While there is only one covenant, the benefits of being part of this everlasting family are available to everyone, regardless of the pigment of your skin or the place of your birth. The sole determining factors of who benefits and who does not are a willingness to act independently of societal influences and to listen to God. And of course, apart from his Hebrew prophets, no one else speaks for him. And that is why we are listening to the words Yahweh conveyed through Moses, the greatest of the prophets. There are a number of ways to convey because in Hebrew, the most common of which is with ky, for this reason. And yet, even having done this now for 22 years, 2 years ago was the first time I recall seeing akeb being used in this way. And it was in trying to assess why Yahweh chose to express it at this time that I gained a greater appreciation for his affinity for Hebrew etymology. Akeb, which can just as accurately be transliterated akeb or akab, is a reward which is merited. This beneficial result is a consequence of trusting the evidence which has been made conspicuously visible along the way and which has been provided. It encourages individuals who find it to walk along this narrow and straightforward path, digging in their heels in the unwavering and upright manner of Jacob, whose name is predicated upon Akab. Therefore, when akeb is deployed in conjunction with Asher, we become the beneficiaries of the covenant. It is the cause, and we are the effect. Nothing is more enabling than listening to Yahweh. 2,000 years before the Messiah fulfilled Passover on our behalf, Yahweh walked us through every 397 aspect of it. He wanted us to know why he was doing it and how we would benefit from his son's sacrifice. The Beryth-Covenant was initiated over the course of 7 meetings. They followed Yahowah's Torah pattern. In the first, Yahowah introduced himself and explained his purpose. He wanted Abram to leave Babylon, the dominant political and religious system of man, and come to him and his home. The covenant encapsulates the reason we exist. It conveys God's promise to his creation. It is his means to interact with us and for us to live with him. And while Abraham would serve as the father of the covenant, Daud would embody everything it represents. Even better, the Messiah would make it possible. Consistent with our method, let's review the covenant's lone prerequisite, its 4 requirements, its instructional insights, its answers, benefits, and promises. To set the stage, the Torah says that Yahowah asked Abram to walk away from the land of his birth in Ur of the Chaldeans, aka Babylon, from Babel, corruption and confusion which is the result of commingling. Beryth 11:28. Prerequisite, Condition 1. Then and now, Yahowah said, Amar, to Abram, of your own volition walk, actually conducting your life's journey, Holok apart and separate from, Min, your country, Otter Eres, apart and separate from, Min, identifying with the circumstances of your birth, your contrarian culture, community, and customs as well as 398 the inappropriate religion and politics of your parents, Moldith Otter, and away from, Min, your fathers, house, home, and household, Beyth, to God's, realm. Ha Eres, which as a benefit of the relationship and to lead along the proper path, Asher, I will reveal to you and show you, Ra Otter. Beryth 12:1. And then, I will engage on your behalf, continually acting to make for you, Asar Talah, a greatly empowered, Gadol, community comprised of every race, Gawi. I will kneel down in love to bless you by lifting you up, Barak Otter. In addition, I will cause, as an expression of my will, your name to continuously grow in importance, Gadol Shem Otter, so that, you come to exist as, Haya, a blessing and a means to reconciliation, Baraka. Beryth 12:2. Then, I will continually choose to favor and hold in high regard, Abaraka, those who hold you in high regard, who see you as a source of blessings of reconciliation, and of the beneficial relationship, Barak Otter. But, he who disdains or despises you, even trivializes you, Kalal Otter, I will actually besmirch as disrespectful and may continuously incarcerate as inferior, Ara. Therefore, with you, Otter, shall be commended and blessed, reconciled and favorably greeted, Barak, all of, Shurl, the people exercising good judgment regarding the means to resolve disputes, Mishpacha, of the land, Eres. Beryth 12:3. Condition 2. And so, he completely trusted in and totally relied upon, displaying complete and total confidence in, Aman Bar, Yahowah. Therefore, based upon this thinking and his plan, he credited and accounted it as, Chasabhu, being correct, and thus 399 vindicated, Zardaka, with him, Lahu. Beryth 15:6. Condition 3. When, Abram, uplifting father, Abram, became, higher, as a son, Ben, of 99 years, Tesha Shana, then Yahowah, was seen, appearing to, Abram, and he said to him, Hu, I am God, the one who is sufficient to provide everything which is required, Shod. Choose of your own volition and of your own initiative to walk by yourself, Holok, toward my presence, and to approach me, La Pana Eni. You will thereby, enjoy becoming genuinely, higher, perfect, entirely right, innocent, and fulfilled, lacking nothing throughout the whole of time, Tamim. Beryth 17:1. I want to actually give, Nathan, my family covenant relationship, Beryth Eni, for the purpose of understanding by making connections between me and you, Bayan Eni Otter bin Otter. And then, I will continually increase every aspect of your nature, Rabah Eth Otter, to the greatest extent and highest degree possible, Bar Maud. Beryth 17:2. Condition 4. So then, God said, Amar Elohim, to, Abraham, as for you, Otter Eth, you should continually examine and genuinely consider, Shema Otter, my family covenant relationship, Beryth Eni. In addition, so should the offspring you conceive, Zerah Otter, following you, Achar Otter, so that they might approach throughout their generations, La Daurimhem. Beryth 17:9. Condition 5. 400 This specific, one and only, Joth, familial covenant of mine, Beryth-Covenant, which beneficially marks the way to the relationship, Asher, you should continuously observe, closely and literally examining, while carefully considering, Shema. You should strive to be discerning and make an intelligent connection to understand me, Beyth. This is for you to be perceptive and prudent regarding the association, Beyth. To form a thoughtful relationship and make a comprehensible connection between, Bin, your offspring, Zerah, following you, Achar, you should circumcise, Mol, accordingly, La, your every male to help them remember their status, Atom Shirl Zakar. Beryth 17:10. And, Wa, you all shall make a declaration by cutting off and separating, Malal, your foreskins, Allah, association with, Eth, one's animalistic instincts and propensity to preach, Basar. And, Wa, this will exist, Higher, as, La, the sign to remember, Oath, the family-oriented covenant relationship, Beryth, between me, for the purpose of making a connection, Bin, and between you, promoting understanding, Bin. Beryth 17:11. Therefore, with, Wa, a son, Ben, of 8, Shemona, days, Yaumim, you shall circumcise, Mol, with regard to your, La, every, Shirl, male to remember, Zakar, throughout, La, your dwelling places and generations, Dower, those naturally born, Yalid, in the home, Beyth, and also, Wa, those wanting to be, Kasap, acquired and included, Miknah, of, Min, every, Shirl, son, Ben, of foreign lands, Nekar, who relationally, Asher, are not, lo, from, Min, your seed, Zerah. Beryth 17:12. He, Hugh, should absolutely circumcise him, definitely cutting off the foreskin, Mol, of the 401 naturally born, Yalid, in your home, Beyth, and also, Wa, those desiring to be, Kasap, included, Miknah, as well as those who are acquired, Miknah, with your money, Kisp. This shall be, Higher, my family-oriented covenant relationship, Beryth in, Bar, the flesh, in the physical realm with humanity, Basar, serving as a means to approach toward, La, an everlasting and eternal, Olam, family-oriented covenant relationship, Beryth. Beryth 17:13. As a result, additional benefits would include, after, Achar, these, Li, conversations Dabarim, the word, Dabar, of Yahowah, came to exist as, Higher, God unto, Abram, in the form of a personal, visual, and illuminating manifestation which could be seen and experienced, Wahamakeza, do not be awed, Al-Yer, Abram, on your behalf and for you to draw near, La, I am, Anki, your defender, surrounding you, shielding and delivering you from harm, Margan, your exceedingly, Maud, great and facilitating, Habi, reward, Sakar. Beryth 15:1. It was then that, Wa, he took him, Yatsa with him, Ethu, outside to an expansive place, Chongs. And he said, Wa ma, please, Na, observe and choose to consider the implications of, Nabat, the heavens and the spiritual realm, Hashamim. Accurately relate to and of your own free will make a declaration regarding, Wa Sapar, the light of the stars and heavenly powers, Hakakab. If, you are able to actually comprehend, genuinely understand this, you will thereby endure forever, Yakol, by accounting for and quantifying these things and that which is associated with them in this written document, La 402 Sapar Ethem. And then, Wa, he made a promise by saying to him, Amar Lahu, your extended family, Zerah, will actually and forever exist, Higher, in this manner and place, Ko. Beryth 15:5. As for you, Wa, you shall continually pursue and come to God, Boel, your father, Ab, in peace, and thus be reconciled, satisfied, safe and saved, restored, and renewed, Bar Shalam. Beryth 15:15. And, Wa, I will grow, be fruitful, and flourish, Para, with you, Eth, in, Bar, the extreme and to the greatest extent possible, Maud. And, Wa, I will provide for you and at some point in time enable, Nathan, the approach of, La, people from differing races and places, Gawim. And therefore, Wa, royalty serving as counselors, Melikim, will come forth, Yatsa, from you, Minota. Beryth 17:6. I will take a stand to establish and confirm, to validate and honor, fulfilling and accomplishing, Wakum, therefore, Eth, my covenant family, Beryth-Covenant. For the purpose of encouraging understanding, achieved through making connections between me and you, it will promote an association with, Beyth-Covenant Wa Bin, your offspring, Zerah otter, after you, Achar otter, for their generations to approach, La Daurim Hem, by way of, La, an everlasting, Olam, family covenant relationship, Beryth. I will exist as, La Haya, your God, La Otter La Elohim, as well as, Wah, for your offspring, La Zerah otter, after you, Achar otter. Beryth 17-7. There have been 3 questions, 5 answers, 12 insightful instructions, 2 affirmations, 4 promises, 2 warnings, 1 prerequisite, 4 conditions, and 16 benefits. And while each of these is important, 403 since the 5 things required of us determine our eternal fate, let's never forget what God is expecting of us. God plus man is perfection, it is the formula upon which the universe was created, and upon which the covenant was based. It is Yahweh's way. As promised, here is the prophecy regarding what Yahweh has been predicting. It is prophetic of the Pesach Ale, Passover lamb. And it is especially intriguing that Yeshaya's presentation commences by asking 2 questions whose answers may be pointing to what we are doing here today. Who has come to establish, verify, and prove, reliably trusting the point of our message from far away? And to whom has the Zarahua, effective ram, protective shepherd, and sacrificial lamb of Yahweh been revealed and made known? Yeshaya, Isaiah 53:1. For he grew up as an infant before his presence, even similar to the roots under the desolate ground, so that no aspect of his appearance, nor anything dignified denoting status, would be seen in him, nothing whatsoever in his appearance that we would desire him. Yeshaya, Isaiah 53:2. He was despised and viewed with contempt and therefore rejected by mankind. As a man who suffered physical pain, he was familiar with affliction. Accordingly, they turned their faces away from him, concealing their presence and identity, because we despised him. We did not rationally consider his actual merit as a result of inaccurately considering his purpose. This was the result of our collective failure to 404 think about him in a detailed or logical manner, or in conjunction with this recording of his mission. Yeshaya, Isaiah 53:3. Nevertheless, our illness and affliction he, himself, lifted up and carried away once and for all. And our mental anguish, he bore, dragging it away, Sable. And yet we, ourselves, devised a plot which considered him reaching out bodily. We forced him into being viciously beaten and killed. God answered the call and was afflicted. Yeshaya, Isaiah 53:4. Then he was pierced as a result of our defiance, our rebellion and our errant approaches. He was put under tremendous pressure, crushed and slandered, harassed and humiliated, even diminished, for our guilt because we were wrong. As a result, the punishment for our reconciliation was placed upon him. So, with his bruising blows, we are healed, approaching restoration and renewal. 53-5. Almost all of us, like migrating sheep, have wandered away from the correct path. Each individual has turned to his way. Therefore, Yahweh has interceded with him on behalf of our guilt. It was all as a result of us being wrong. Yeshaya, Isaiah 53:6. He paid what was required. He responded, answering the call to be afflicted. And yet he did not open his mouth. Like a lamb, he was delivered to the slaughter, confronting the ruthless beasts and deadly butchers. Like a sheep, facing its shearer is silenced, he did not speak. Yeshaya, Isaiah 53:7. Through oppressive incarceration, and on account of the means to justly resolve disputes, he was led away on behalf of those who would live in future generations, for those who will give serious consideration to this 405 situation, recognizing that, truthfully, he was separated from the material realm of the living. Because of the defiance and rebellion of my people, the assault associated with the plague was directed toward him. Yeshaya, Isaiah 53:8. And they gave him over to the unrighteous in conjunction with the rock-hewn tomb following the termination of his biological life. With rich people, he was elevated to the summit of his mountain. This exceptional individual had engaged in nothing wrong or violent, nothing destructive or deadly, having committed no act of terrorism or anything frightening. And he had not plundered or looted anyone, nor demonstrated anything which would have involved additional yeast, and thus, he had not engaged in religion or politics. Therefore, nothing deceitful or misleading, nothing which would have caused someone to derive a false impression, could be construed from his words and deeds. Yeshaya, Isaiah 53:9. For this reason, it was the will and purpose of Yahweh for him to suffer the effect of being crushed. He thereby interceded by infecting him with the plague. The concession was obtained by appointing his soul to suffer the punishment to serve as compensation. He will look upon his offspring because he will prolong his days. The will and desire for affirmative action of Yahweh through his hand will succeed and prosper, accomplishing the goal, and taking it to the next level. Yeshaya, Isaiah 53:10. Out of the difficult and miserable toil of his soul, he will actually see the light abundantly overflowing and providing complete satisfaction. By way of knowing 406 and understanding him, my co-worker and associate will make things right by acquitting and vindicating. For many, their guilt he shall bear, Sable. Yashaya, Isaiah 53:11. Honestly, therefore, this is right and correct, just and proper for him. So, I will apportion and disperse everyone's share in abundance. And with the empowered and enriched, he will enable a share which will be distributed based upon an orderly, sequential, and rational arrangement. To show the way to the benefits of the relationship along the proper path to a joyous life, he exposed and eliminated the destructive plague of death. His soul was assigned and counted among those who indignantly revolted, and offensively transgressed by being openly insubordinate, and especially recalcitrant. They were of a contrarian nature, deliberately infringing against the standard with their errant approaches. As a result, he, himself, lifted up and carried away this wrongdoing and these offenses, including the errors in judgment. And therefore, the guilt which would otherwise have led to incurring a penalty, including punishment and condemnation, he has interceded to remove, sparing them in a manner which is beneficial. He has made the transgressors like the intercessor throughout the whole of time. Yashaya, Isaiah 53:12. This is one of many prophecies rabbis omit from their annual readings. They do so because it is so obviously directed toward the Zarahua and his fulfillment of Passover. Their own king has become an anathema to them based on what Christians have done to transform the Son of God into a false Messiah. However, by ignoring this prophecy, Jews forfeit the benefits which result from Pesach and Matzah leading to Bikurim and Shabat. 407 Even with hundreds of prophecies affirming that Daud would become our savior by fulfilling these mikre, Judaism would have none of it, preferring to remain estranged from father and son. And having denied the fulfillment of the first 4 modim in year 4000 year, the Haredi remain unwilling to accept that Daud is returning on Yom Kippurim. This will be the last opportunity for reconciliation, one which the religious will once again forfeit.